Breaking tonight, federal judge Judge Chutkan just took a simple test. Many defense lawyers will say she failed. She didn't have to do this. First, some background. Late last night, the judge presiding over Trump's federal trial here in Washington, D.C., directed special counsel Jack Smith and lawyers for former President Donald Trump to meet and pick a date to be on or before Friday, August 11th for a hearing on the government's motion for a protective order. That government motion, as you know, was filed late Friday night. Trump lawyers asked for the usual week to respond. The judge said no. She told Trump's lawyers to answer the government's motion by 5 p.m. yesterday. They did. The next step, of course, is a hearing on that motion. The judge wants that hearing on or before Friday, August 11th. She directed the lawyers for both parties meet and agree on a date and time for that hearing. Special counsel Jack Smith has a stable of lawyers, at least 5 noted in reports, all likely living here in Washington, D.C. So his team is available for a hearing tomorrow, Thursday or Friday. Trump, on the other hand, has only 2 trial lawyers, and neither lives in Washington, D.C. They are not both available on such short notice for a hearing in D.C. on Thursday or Friday. Naturally, Trump wants both his lawyers present. So would you. Why the lack of availability? Trump also has a hearing this Thursday in Florida, federal court, in the classified documents case. That court date was set by the Florida federal judge well before Trump was indicted here in Washington, D.C. Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, also a lawyer in this case, will need to be in court there. Being present for both hearings, tomorrow, Thursday, or Friday, is a near impossibility. You also have to factor in travel between Florida and Washington. As you may know, airline delays are now the rule. So the Trump team made a simple request, and a very reasonable request, that the federal judge here in D.C. simply calendar the government's protective motion hearing for the next business day, which is this Monday. So, did she on the next business day? No, she refused to do so. Instead, she just issued an order setting the hearing in D.C. at 10 a.m. on Friday. Former federal prosecutor, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Georgia, Francey Hakes, joins me. Francey, I don't get this. One day, what's the big deal?
Well, Greta, it isn't a big deal. One of the things that disappointed me most in reading what happened on this motion and the hearing schedule is that the judge told the Department of Justice, the special counsel's office, and Trump's lawyers to get together and try to pick a date. And apparently they couldn't, or the Department of Justice refused to communicate about it, or refused to communicate about the motion itself. That is really part of the give and take that is the relationship between a good prosecutor and a good defense attorney. You have to have a collegial working relationship. You know, TV and the movies always portray us as just hating each other, and certainly that happens. You have those attorneys you don't get along with. But generally speaking, you have to get along with opposing counsel. There are all sorts of occasions, and generally it's very collegial when you're setting things like dates, even for something that the government is saying is a bit of an emergency motion.
It isn't, but let me tell you why it's not an emergency. This is the big sort of myth that everybody has out there. What the government is saying is the government has an obligation to turn over discovery material to the defense. And so right now the government has that discovery material. It doesn't want to turn over that discovery material until it has set the ground rules, what would be a protective order or not. So right now there's no risk, none, zero risk. They've got the documents. So what's the big deal? First of all, they didn't have to wait till that Monday thing where she jammed them on the Monday. Usually have 7 days to respond to a motion. She gave them from Friday night to Monday night. So what's the big deal? But now she does it again when there's zero risk. There's no urgency. She's just being a jerk.
Well, that's what it looks like, Greta. And, you know, I know that you and I agree that just because a judge was appointed by a particular president doesn't necessarily mean they have the kind of bias that you might expect they would politically. But here, very early in this case, it does appear to me that she is showing her colors and is showing her bias because she is not following the normal court rules that you just mentioned of having a certain period of time to respond to motions. She's not following the collegiality of the bar and trying to accommodate busy defense attorneys. They may have other cases that have been scheduled for a long time for hearings or pleas or sentencing in other criminal courts around Florida or wherever they practice, and she's not accommodating that, much less accommodating the other hearing in federal court on Thursday. So I think her bias is showing. I don't think it's a good sign.
And then that hearing was set long before. So if you have a hearing all day Thursday, I mean, look, I mean, it's just flying around this country is almost nuts. You hit a storm in Florida on Thursday night. You're never going to make the flight. You're never going to get here by 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday. But but why even put someone to force that challenge? There's no sense of urgency. And this is a former public defender. She knows how many resources that the prosecution has. They have a whole stable of lawyers. Defendants, you're lucky if you have 2 lawyers. That's huge. But she knows better. That's what I don't get. This judge should know better.
Well, she does know better, Greta. I mean, she for sure knows better. She's been working in the court system for her entire career. And Jack Smith has more than just a few lawyers. He has the entire Department of Justice. If he needs a lawyer to pull from, they can yank a lawyer from anywhere in this country among the 10,000 that the Department of Justice has, bring them up to Washington and put them on a special detail. And you can bet that anyone working for Jack Smith, whether they are from D.C. or not, the Department of Justice is paying for them to live and work there. We, the taxpayer, are paying probably $3,500 to $4,500 a month for these lawyers to sit in D.C. for the term of the special counsel and this prosecution. So he has a lot more resources at this point than Donald Trump does.
It doesn't give me, I don't care who appointed her. I know that matters to a lot of people. I'll tell you why I think that she should have recused herself, whether it's fair or not, is that there was a period of time, about 4 years, when she was a partner at a law firm here in Washington, D.C. Of counsel at the same time was Hunter Biden. And it was a small office here of about 20 or 25 lawyers, so they had to overlap. He brings money into the firm, she brings money into the firm. They all split the pot. That's what we do in law firms. So whether it was fair or not, or whether there's a conflict or not, it certainly has the appearance. And then you pile on this stuff. She's just making it look worse for herself when the whole idea is to try to be try to at least give the appearance that you're doing everything to be fair to both sides.
Well, and there's no reason for her to do it. And she's violating the judicial canon of ethics, Greta, which says you have to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. I don't doubt that President Trump's people are going to file a motion to recuse, and I also have no doubt that she will deny it. That's the irony of it, is unlike state court, which motions to recuse generally get heard by another judge who gets brought in federal court, the same judge you're saying, I don't think you can be fair, Your Honor, is the one deciding whether or not they can be fair. And then if they decide they can be fair, you're stuck with that judge that you've just accused of the inability to be fair. And she's certainly showing here that she is of a mind to treat President Trump differently than any other defendant.
And over such a stupid thing, one business day. Why, it's like, I don't get that one. Francey Hakes, thank you very much.
Thanks, Greta.